Hello, I am your host, Ethan, and I am here to guide you into a deep, restorative sleep tonight. We travel far to the cold northern lands of the ancient Norse people, a place of quiet fjords, towering pine forests, and long winters beneath shimmering northern skies. But before our journey begins, allow your body to slowly relax. Let the day gently fade away. Take a slow breath in through your nose and release it softly through your mouth. Again, breathe in slowly and breathe out gently. One more deep breath and let it drift away. Now bring your attention to the top of your head, the scalp soften and relaxing, the small muscles across your forehead loosening, becoming calm and smooth. Let the area around your eyes grow heavy and relaxed. Your eyelids resting gently, the tiny muscles behind your eyes unwinding. Now relax your cheeks, your facial muscles, and your jaw. Allow the jaw to loosen slightly, unclench comfortable. Your throat softens, warm, open and relaxed. Now feel your lungs expanding gently as you breathe in and softly falling as you breathe out. Take 3 slow breaths here and slowly out gently, and again calm and steady, and out, letting go of tension. One final slow breath and release. Allow that calm sensation to move down into your chest and into your stomach, your abdominal area loosening, becoming warm and peaceful. Now let the relaxation flow down into your legs, your thighs becoming heavy, your knees soft, your calves loose and comfortable, all the way down into your ankles, your feet, and your toes, your entire body now resting quietly, peaceful, warm, and still. Now, as your body settles, your mind begins to wander gently northward to a land of ancient fjords and deep forests. Imagine standing beside a calm Nordic shoreline, cold, clear water stretching toward distant mountains, tall cliffs rising from the sea, and long wooden Viking ships resting quietly near the shore. The air is cool and fresh, carrying the scent of pine trees, salt water, and distant snow above you. The night sky begins to glow with a quiet wonder, soft green ribbons of light dancing slowly across the stars. The northern lights moving silently over the mountains. Nearby, a small fire crackles beside a wooden hall built of thick pine logs, its warm orange light glowing gently against the cold Nordic night. Inside the hall, an old Norse storyteller sits beside the fire. His name is Bjorn the Quiet, a man known across the fjords not for strength, but for wisdom. You take a seat beside the fire, the warmth comforting against the cool air outside, with crackling softly in the hearth. Bjorn slowly looks toward the flames and begins his story. Long ago, he says quietly, in a small village beside the northern sea, lived a young fisherman named Leif. You imagine the village now, small wooden houses with grass-covered roofs, fishing boats tied gently along the icy shore, tall pine forests stretching endlessly beyond the hills. Leif was not the strongest man in the village, Bjorn continues. He was not the fastest sailor, nor the most skilled hunter. The fire crackles softly beside you, but Leif had something the elders respected greatly. He had perseverance. Bjorn pauses, watching the sparks rise slowly toward the roof beams. In the northern lands, winters are long. The seas grow rough, the winds grow cold, and many people choose to stay close to the fire. Outside the hall, the wind moves softly through the pine trees, but every morning before the sun rose above the mountains, Leif walked to the shore. You picture the quiet Nordic dawn, gray light touching the icy water, snow resting along the cliffs, the sea calm but cold. Some mornings the waves were gentle, Bjorn says. Other mornings the storms were fierce. But Leif returned each day. The storyteller leaned slightly closer to the fire. He repaired nets when they tore, He rebuilt boats when storms damaged them. He sailed again, even after days when the sea returned empty. The warm firelight flickers across the wooden walls, and the elders of the village often wondered, why does the boy keep returning to the sea? Bjorn's voice grows softer. One winter, a great storm came across the fjord. The winds roared for 3 days. The waves crashed against the cliffs, and many boats were damaged. You imagine the dark storm clouds over the Nordic Sea, lightning flashing across the mountains, snow carried sideways through the air. When the storm finally passed, Bjorn continues, the fishermen gathered at the shore. Many believed the fishing season had ended. The sea had grown too dangerous, too unpredictable. But one morning, before the others arrived, Leif was already there, standing quietly beside his small repaired boat. Bjorn smiles gently into the fire, and that was the moment the village truly began to understand him. The northern wind moves softly outside the hall. The fire crackles slowly beside you, and the story of perseverance in the Nordic lands has only just begun. The fire in the wooden hall burns slowly, soft orange light dancing across the heavy pine beams above. Outside, the cold Nordic wind moves gently across the fjord, whispering through tall dark pine trees. Bjorn the Quiet sits beside the fire, watching the flames with calm eyes. You sit nearby, listening as the story continues. The morning after the great storm, Bjorn says softly, the village fishermen walked slowly toward the shore, their boots pressed into the cold sand, their breath visible in the icy air. The sea had grown quiet again, dark blue water stretching toward distant snow-covered mountains. The waves were smaller now, but the memory of the storm still lingered in the air. Many boats had been damaged. Broken masts rested along the shore, fishing nets tangled and torn from the violent winds. The fishermen spoke quietly among themselves. Some believed the sea had become too dangerous. Others said the winter had come too early. But as they approached the shoreline, they saw someone already there, Leif. He stood beside his small wooden boat, carefully tightening a rope along its side. The cold wind moved his cloak slightly, but his hands worked steadily. Bjorn pauses for a moment, the fire crackling softly beside him. One of the elders walked toward Leif, he continues. The old fisherman named Halvard. You imagine the elder now, a tall man with long gray hair and weathered hands, a man who had spent 40 winters sailing the northern sea. Halvard looked out toward the water. The waves rolled slowly beneath the pale winter sky. Why do you return to the sea today? Halvard asked. The storms may come again. The waters may still be dangerous. Leif stood quietly for a moment, watching the slow movement of the waves. Then he answered gently. The sea did not stop being the sea, he said, and I did not stop being fisherman. Bjorn smiles softly as he speaks the words. The elder fisherman studied the young man carefully. Then he nodded. Very well, Halvard said, but today you will not sail alone. Soon another fisherman stepped forward, then another, and before long, 5 boats pushed slowly into the cold Nordic water. The wooden hulls creaked gently as they moved across the fjord, oars dipping quietly into the dark sea. Above them, gray clouds drifted slowly across the sky. The cold wind brushed against their cloaks, but the water remained calm. Leif worked patiently beside the others, casting his fishing line into the deep water. Waiting quietly, time passed slowly on the sea, minutes stretching into hours. The waves moved steadily beneath the boats, rising and falling like the breathing of the ocean itself. At first, nothing happened. The lines remained still, the water silent. But Leif did not grow frustrated. He simply adjusted his line and waited again. Bjorn's voice grows softer as the story deepens. Perseverance, he says quietly, is not loud. It does not shout against the wind. It simply continues. The fisherman watched the young man carefully. Many times that morning, his line came up empty. Yet each time, he lowered it again, patient, calm, steady. Then, as the afternoon light began to fade, Leif felt a small pull upon the rope. He did not rush. He did not shout. Slowly, carefully, he pulled the line upward. The water rippled around the rope, silver scales flashing beneath the surface. A large northern cod broke through the water, strong, shining, and heavy. The fishermen around him smiled quietly, but Leif simply placed the fish gently into the boat, reset his line, and lowered it once more into the sea. Because perseverance, like the northern tide, never moves, only once. And the lesson of the fjord had only just begun to unfold. The cold northern sea moves slowly beneath the boats, dark water rising and falling like the quiet breath of the fjord. Leif sits calmly in his small wooden boat, his hands steady on the fishing line. The other fishermen drift nearby, watching the gray sky slowly shift toward evening. Bjorn the Quiet leans slightly closer to the fire as he continues the story. The flames glow softly against the wooden walls of the hull. The first fish was only the beginning, Bjorn says gently. The sea rewards patience, but never all at once. Leif lowers his line again into the deep Nordic waters. The rope disappears slowly beneath the surface, vanishing into the quiet darkness below. The wind grows softer as the afternoon fades. Clouds drift across the mountains like slow-moving ships. Again, the fishermen wait, not minutes, but long stretches of quiet time. Some fishermen grow restless. One man pulls up his line early, another sighs as the cold air touches his hands. But Leif remains calm. He adjusts his line, he breathes slowly, and he waits again. Bjorn pauses for a moment, watching the sparks rise from the fire. In the north, he says softly, the strongest people are not always those who shout the loudest. They are the ones who continue when others grow tired. As evening approaches, Leif feels another gentle pull on the rope, then another. The water ripples beside his boat. Silver flashes beneath the surface. Slowly, carefully, he lifts the line. Another strong cod rises from the dark sea. Then another. Soon the small wooden boat holds more fish than any other boat that day. The fishermen look at Leif with quiet respect, not with jealousy, but with understanding. However, the elder nods slowly from his boat nearby. You see, the old fisherman says to the others, the sea favors the patient. Bjorn's voice becomes softer now. The fire burns lower in the hall. When the boats returned to shore that evening, the villagers gathered along the beach. The sky had begun to darken. A faint green light shimmered across the northern horizon. The northern lights slowly awakening above the fjord. Leif pulled his boat onto the shore quietly. He did not boast. He did not celebrate loudly. He simply began repairing his nets again, preparing for the next morning. Halvard walked beside him. The old fisherman placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. You have learned something many men never do, he said. Perseverance is stronger than the storm. Bjorn the Quiet lets the final words settle into the warm air of the hull. The fire now glows gently low and calm. Outside, the wind moves softly to the pine trees. The fjord reflects the slow dancing lights of the northern sky. Years later, Bjorn says softly, Leif became one of the most trusted fishermen of the village. But not because he caught the most fish. Because he never stopped returning to the sea. The old storyteller leans back slightly beside the fire. And that is the secret of perseverance. It is not speed. It is not force. It is simply the quiet decision to return again tomorrow. The fire crackles softly, its warm light fading slowly into the night. Outside the hall, the northern lights drift silently across the sky, green ribbons of light moving gently above the mountains. The fjord rests beneath the stars, calm, cold, endless. The waves touch the quiet shore, and slowly the story settles into stillness.